Good afternoon. My name is E LETO, and I would like to talk this afternoon about my topic, which is an ICT-based approach for Italian as a foreign language in multicultural classes. Migrations are an issue which involves all the world nowadays, but also in the previous centuries. But in particular, in these last um, years, it involved Italy in a big amount of people coming to and from different sides of Europe and Eastern Europe and Africa and Africa in particular. Particularly in Sicily, we had a huge migration from Africa. And migration is something which always characterized the history of mankind, but in these last periods, Italy is facing these new issues, and the society is changing a lot under this pressure in Italy in particular. What is natural that all this migration involves also the field of education, and of course school have to face the entrance of students from abroad, in particular students who for the first time arrived in Italy and for the first time enter the school system and have a big issue to face. Not only the fact that they have to deal with a new system, a new society, a new way of life, a new style of life to adapt to, but also the fact that they have to face the problem of knowledge of Italian language. One of the first steps, in fact, for all the educator is to promote communication, filling the linguistic gap with the native peers and with also the teachers or the other adult figures in education, creating the proper condition for them to learn. A standard multicultural class in the Italian school system can include, in a group composed of Italian native students, a small and variable percentage of foreign students. It can happen really frequently that in classes, the normal size of Italian classes could be 20, 25, 28 students. It depends on the class. And we are talking about students coming to school in the primary and low secondary grade of school. And there could be 1, 2, or 3 students coming from different nationalities, or sometimes students belonging to the same ethnic culture or to the same nationality. But there are a lot of frequent cases in which there are students coming from different countries, from different cultures, different languages, included in a class of native Italian speakers. What does this implies? It implies that these students, of course, have to be accompanied by additional extra hours in their school system, as well as the presence of a cultural mediator, because sometimes it's not very easy to adapt to new styles, new way of life. And school is the field in which all these inputs, these different inputs map together and have to sometimes find answers of integration, inclusion, and cooperation, collaboration. So it is important that these students acquire a basic survival level competence in Italian language to understand the world around them, to understand how the school works, how to realize a good communication with teachers, with the peers, and also because most of the time they attend general class lessons in Italian language. And so it is very important for teachers to find some strategies or methodologies to promote inclusion in front of different languages, different alphabets too. Entrance class vocabulary is needed. Further are the acquisition of specific ones related to the different disciplines. The language the students acquire when they arrive in Italy and they start their life in Italy is the language they acquire not only at school, but they acquire by playing, walking on the street, or watching television. A lot of the language native that a non-native speaker can learn is watching television. For example, listening to people around them that will speak. It is therefore a mixed learning situation because they have a common language which is spoken easily around and a structured language that they have to learn. And these two issues have to be put together in order for them to acquire a spoken language. This is the reason why a clear approach in building specific vocabulary learning situation and ICT learning by doing can be very effective for a good reason that ICT is a universal language. Computers, smartphones are universally used. So when students of different cultures have the smartphones in their hands, they have a common ground to build something on. Of course, we can also use what is provided by the web, which is, for example, the translation application, which can be used immediately when they enter in the classes in order to promote dialogue, to communicate through an app which conveys the meaning of what they want to exchange. The strategy that I used with my students coming from abroad, so with foreign students, and the examples that I will give are students coming from different countries with different cultures, no Italian speakers, no Italian speakers at all. Some of them arrived directly in my class from the foreign country, and sometimes with the lack of the cultural mediator and with the lack of a good amount of strong amount of extra hours to implement Italian language. So what I figured out is a strategy used to build learning units on digital tools and devices. In these pictures, you can see there are computers, laptops, and then some programs some apps that we are using to acquire vocabulary, because the first step is to acquire basic vocabulary. Then these apps, these learning units are based on visual and oral approaches, and only the second time on the introduction of written words and letters. Why? Because we have to set, first of all, a topic which is common and familiar to the students. So we start from them, because they have to describe themselves, they have to introduce themselves, so name, age, their travel, where they come from, history, and then they have to convey the meaning of what they have around them. So the classroom, school objects, and action, family, on the street when they walk from their house to the school, time, days, month, date, weather, food, the meeting with the others, school life, the urban context. So everything of these topics have to be consolidated, and then after this first step, the specific vocabulary of each discipline can be implemented. And some example of learning units that I built was example one. This learning unit is an approach unit, is to make the students acquire a basic survival vocabulary on their first approach at school. So me and my environment, my class. The students to whom it is addressed are aged 11 or 12 with no competence in Italian language for students. Some of these examples were set for students coming from USA and from China, who were set together in the same class. The aims are the acquisition of the vocabulary related to the classroom objects, the which is one of the first approaches, and their use. The methodologies are oral and visual approach in a deductive way through exercise. So the tools we used were the interactive board, the smartphones, or the tablet. We had tablet, laptops, and the Wi-Fi connection, and some apps I will show you. First of all, there was the introduction of the lexicon, focusing on the pronouns. So there were some images describing the object of the classes, in which pointed to them the teacher pronounced the word related to Italian. And the same words are chosen in order to implement, to acquire their knowledge with different tools. The first step was the recognition of the image in the interactive board using the ICT, and then we built some exercises, for example, with Code, which is an online quiz, in which sound and the word or the written word and the sound were related. This is a first approach. And what is this? We used also a translation in Chinese, basic Chinese, also because the teacher was not aware about the level of competence of in his language, so it was an approach to translation, and it was put in Italian and in English because we had also American students. And so they had to recognize what is it, what's the name of this object, and the teacher would read the four squares: red banco, blue parete, yellow lavagna, green pen. And so the students will choose the right answer, matching with the color, with the right color. Another step then was repeating the pattern exercises through matching the pairs with this audio through the learning apps. Learning apps are tools which are very effective because they allow the teachers to build different personalized learning objects. And this kind of exercises is very useful to acquire language in a deductive way. So the task was to match the objects with the sound, so that words pronounced by the text-to-speech technique will be listened, clicking on this audio, and then will be moved with the mouse to the image, to the proper image, and this match was given the answer if this match was correct. Another step was matching sounds and letters at the end. After the acquisition of that relation image and sound, then we pass to the acquisition of sound and letters. Of course, this is very important because in this case they have to familiarize with the alphabet, because sometimes the students can come from cultures with different alphabets, with different systems, and so it is important to start matching the alphabet. So clicking on the ascolta button, listen, they have to listen to the object, one of the objects they saw in the exercise before, and then they have to choose the word, the letter, to build the word. When they fail, one of the parts of the flower falls, falls down, and so they know if they are doing it wrong or right. Another step is always practice repeating the pattern exercises. For example, um, we have another theme which we exploited, which was the weather. And then we pointed to the image on the interactive board, repeating the word associated to the weather, and then we gave the exercise that each of them did on their laptops, on the tablets, or on the smartphones, because this app works everywhere. And they played on the audio, and then they matched the description of the image with the image itself. And so the exercise was an autocorrective exercise giving the right or wrong answer. Another level of competence, that's the level of competence at the end of this unit, is to match words, written words, and audio. So the steps were visual, images, audio, matching audio and written, discovering the letters and then matching the words and the audio. So they clicked on the audio and listened to the words and matched to the correct spelling of the words. All these activities, of course, were proposed not only in small groups to the foreign students, but also together with the native Italian students in order to promote the acquisition, comparison. For the native speakers were games of socialization and inclusion, and supported in this kind of game and promoted communication and focusing on the words, repeating on the words together with the other students. After lockdown, of course, classes went on, and the use of digital tools and devices has totally changed. It became really important, and it revealed a good tool to ease distance communication relation, in particular for these students, because they could also be in touch with the teachers and with the other students through digital tools and with helping tools that can be asked for translations and promote communication the same way. ICT is proved to be a successful methodology in learning foreign language. It can be applied to any foreign language and used at every level, as ICT language is universally shared and action-based. A proper use of digital tools provides a strong increase in communication interaction, and we perceived it during the lockdown with distance learning, because we went on using the same tools implemented by the use of the virtual classroom, and we use another app, for example, this is Quizzes, in which this kind of exercise could be done together online. Of course, there are some problems, some issues which are linked to the use of ICT tools with distance, with remote learning. The fact that sometimes in this context, the social context where the foreign students live, there could be some problems with Wi-Fi connection because sometimes the families are disadvantaged. So this is a limit for distance, for remote learning. These are some references, some other papers on ICT and language. And I thank you for your attention with one of my multicultural